hope this is gonna work. If anyone is able to see or hear me yet, let me know. Give people a little bit of time to hop on. I don't know if I'll be able to see or hear anything. We've not had great luck with Facebook Live lately. Oh, it looks like Elena's there. Thanks, Elena. Let's see if I can. Oh, I can see comments even on my phone. Awesome. Hi, Bree. I get nervous about technology. I'm really horrible with it. If I go near a copy artwork, people are like tackling me to get out of the way to not touch it. And if I'm near my husband's camera equipment, he gets really freaked out. So hopefully this will work. And I guess I won't give too long for people to join, since they're probably participating in a feeding frenzy over the new colors that have been posted. Okay, well, I'll kind of get started a little bit. People can come back and watch this when there's not so much excitement happening with orders. So I'm Natasha. Hi, Joyce. And I'm on Elena's team. I am on her first downline, and I'm on Bree's fifth downline. And I have been doing this a whopping 6 weeks as of yesterday. So I'm fairly new, but I have had some success in those first 6 weeks, and even though kind of had the same sort of struggles of out of stock issues and you know, the server being slow and all those kinds of things. And so Bree thought it might be helpful for me to just give a little insight of how I've been running my business. And so to give you, hi Mandy, to give you a little bit of perspective, in 6 weeks with the out of stock issue, just in credit card sales alone, I have processed a little over $4,000, and so that's not counting cash or checks or anything like that that's come in. I've booked 23 parties or events, and I have 10 girls on my first downline. And you know, I've been dealing with the same sort of struggles and issues that we all have been. So hopefully some of the things that I'm doing might be helpful. Some of you may already be doing this stuff, but that's kind of the goal, is to talk a little bit about how I schedule my parties, what I do when I'm there, and then also how things have been going. So how have they impacted sales, or you know, impacted getting other distributors and things like that. And so far, I think I can see people's comments and things. So if you have questions, maybe I'll actually be able to answer them as we go through. I would say one of the #1 things that I think has kind of led to my party successes is that when Elena first explained to me this, which Elena, by the way, this still really cracks me up that I even do this. This is so not like me. So she must have just caught me on a really good day. I don't know. But when we were first kind of talking about it, I was brainstorming strategies, and one of the things that I thought that probably would be really helpful to consumers and for a business was to prioritize testers. And so I think that the temptation can be to purchase a lot of resellable stock, which makes perfect sense. But especially in our region where we are, and I imagine other regions as well, $55 for a starter collection can feel steep to some people, even though once you obviously know about this product, you learn very quickly that's extremely reasonable for what you're getting. And so to put that kind of money into something and not know if it's a color that you're going to like or a product you're going to like, I felt like testers would be important. Also for me, I'm in contact with a lot of different women. Where my husband is a photographer, there are people of all different walks of life with all different kinds of projects and photography needs that we have contact with. And so I felt like, you know, if I had testers available, there could be kind of spontaneous testings and sales that maybe could happen with these individuals too. So that's kind of been one of the basic underlying things for me, is really prioritizing having testers. So with that said, every time there's been a color posted, I do not buy stock in that color unless I am also getting the tester, and I do not sell my testers. So even if I've not used it yet, no one's been interested in that color, although technically that's never happened. Everyone's interested in every color, but I will not let my testers go. So that's thing one. And that process has kind of organically led to a lot of my business. I am not very salesy, and I don't like feeling like I'm having to push and market things all the time. If you are our Facebook friend of mine, on my personal page, there's almost nothing about lip scents or about Synergence or about me doing this. I'm not using my social media, my personal social media, as a way to be blowing people up about this. And so I created a private group. It's not even public, it's a private group, and I only added like maybe 30 or so of actual women that I have regular contact with, and message them and ask them to be part of the group, and have let them organically add other women to the group. And I'm not saying this is the only method or the best method, but I know there are some people who, their first day they've added 1,200 people to their group, and some of these people don't even know why they're in it or how they got in there. I have tried to keep things very personal and not talk a lot about sales. What I've talked a lot about are testers, and try before you buy. If you're local, come by my house, check out these colors, posting pictures or demos of myself, but again, all within the context of my private group. And so my group is not very large, but so far that really has been okay. Hi, Tammy. So I feel like testers has been a good way to sort of open the door with talking to people. And that has led to a lot of my parties, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about what scheduling looks like and that kind of thing. There's really been sort of 4 different types of engagements, main engagements I think that I've had. Some are through private or spontaneous testings that might be more personal. There's just 1 or 2 people doing an in-home event, doing a combo vendor event, or doing a Facebook event. And so I'll talk how those are a little bit different. Other things that I've done that might be a little bit different is I've made certain colors exclusive for my hostesses. So I do the same breakdown that comes in the beauty book about these are your discounts that you can get if you host a party, based on sales that your group has. But then I also provide 1 free color to my hostess. And I give them the whole kit in advance of their party. So if they pick, praline rose as their color, I send that out to them weeks before their party, or days, or however much time that I have. And I go ahead and send them the gloss and the remover. So that, I don't know, this might be risky. There may be some people who've been burned on this, but so far I haven't. And their only job is to try it out and then post things to their friends that they've invited. So whether that's in an event page or in a group, try out the color, post selfies of it, talk about it, build it up, because I feel like, definitely attendees are more interested in what their actual friend, the hostess, is doing than what the salesman is doing or saying. And so we have an agreement that their color will be free, and they will need to pay me the difference for the gloss and the remover eventually at the close of their party, based on whatever else they order and how the sales for their party goes. And so far, out of all the parties I've done, that has never been a problem. And I think that it also kind of gives a little bit of a level of accountability for maybe girls not to flake out or not follow through with their party because they know you've already fronted them $55 of product. And so that's been helpful. But the other thing that I've done is, especially in the midst of the out of stock issue, is holding back certain colors that only my hostesses can get access to. So I think it was back in maybe towards the end of February that Bella came back in stock, and that was one of the first times in a while that it had been in stock, and I had only just joined, so it was, you know, that was no different to me, but people were freaking out about it and trying to order it, and I saw lots of people that were selling out of it immediately, and I was only able to get my hands on 5 Bella, but what I decided to do is I didn't sell a single one. I created an Instagram post, and I posted it in my private group, and I posted it on my business page, on my business Instagram account. That was the only 2 places, and it just said, had some, you know, pretty pictures of Bella, which in hindsight I think was not even Bella, but I didn't even know that at the time. But that basically said the March party exclusive to get Bella is to host a party. And I had lots of girls message me wanting to buy it, and I stood really firm with that, you know, right now we're having some out of stock issues. The supply and demand of the company is just incredibly impressive, and I'm really prioritizing these for my girls who host a party. And most people that want a Bella hosted a party. And so that was that's sort of another way that I've built off of the out of stock issue rather than stockpiling colors and then selling them as quickly as possible. So that's one thing. When I do an in-person party or a Facebook party, either one, I will definitely do demos of applying and removing the product. And the other thing that I feel like has kind of been a big seller or one of the more interesting pieces is that I always do 2-toned lips. So I'll do one color on the top and another color on the bottom. And I don't know exactly what it is about that, but I feel like once you apply the gloss and people actually see this wet look and you rubbing your lips together and finishing out the whole rest of their party and that there's been no transfer, there is kind of this spark of interest that people don't have when you just use one color across the board. So that's something I've prioritized, especially with my in-person parties, because I also just look crazy the whole rest of the party, and I think people just appreciate that, you know, you can kind of be laid back about it and that you have that much confidence in the product, and, you know, whatever we eat or we drink or we talk about, you know, I have a light and a dark color and they've never transferred. And so I think doing the kiss test and the smudge test and all that is still great, but that is one of the things I make sure and add in for any of the parties that I do, that I always have mismatching lip colors. Also, I don't do a lot of games, and I haven't really experimented with that appropriately to try games to know if that helps anything. I'm just, as a consumer, not really into games, and I feel like people are busy, and if you are logging into a Facebook party or you're coming to someone's house, you're there to either socialize or buy a product or both, but probably not there to play games. But that's just me, so I don't know. You do your own thing. So my time in someone's house really is spent talking about the product and playing with it, and that's the great thing about the testers. And I've been building things up over time, but I take tinted moisturizers, I take the eyeshadows, I take all the lip scents that I have, and we just spend our time trying it out. And I've had really incredible hostesses so far, but that's one of the most important ingredients. If your hostess is telling people, how beautiful they look in colors, and, coming and grabbing product and taking it to someone, you should try Roseberry, or you should try this. They're doing a lot of your work for you, but that's also coming from someone that they're trusting, as opposed to the salesman that's up there. I'm probably on the opposite end. I'm trying to think of a polite way to say it. I wouldn't say I'm confrontational, but I'm definitely okay with being assertive, and I'm very honest. And so I'm more of the person that would probably come to you and say, I'm not really feeling frost for you. Let's maybe try a shimmer. And I would rather be in that position and feel like I sold someone something that I also really did feel like looked good on them, as opposed to I just wanted the sale. Whereas you could kind of leave it up to your hostess to just be throwing out, you know, any kind of color or product at people. But I think having a good hostess is important. Usually my in-person parties are about 2 hours, and that's not counting my setup or breaking things down. And that really is just giving a spill at the beginning, talking about the product, doing a demo, and almost all the rest of the time is just live discussion, chatter, and people trying things on. When I do Facebook parties, so this is something a little different with the out of stock issue from how other people have done Facebook parties. I will only give people access to my inventory for up to 2 hours, and that's it. I imagine that will change significantly once the stock changes, but that's been one of the things that I've done. So if a hostess wants to have a one-day party or a one-week party, that's fine. But what I do is I market materials, I educate the girls about the products, all different kinds of products depending on whatever is in stock. I'm marketing myself, I'm introducing myself, and I'm kind of gauging the group. I'm not posting something every couple of hours or like wearing them out. But I post them an agenda and let them know. So maybe the group has been created this entire week, but the party is actually tomorrow. I will post them agenda and be like, you know, tomorrow is party day at 3 o'clock. I'm going to log in and do a live video about why I joined and give you a little background about the product. And I'll be available for live questions and comments at that time if you're interested. At, you know, whatever time. At 5 o'clock, I'm going to log back in. I'm going to do another live video about application, and I'll be available again if you have questions or comments and you want access to me live. At 7 o'clock, I'm posting my albums. You have from 7 until 9 to shop. At 9 o'clock, the albums will come down, and I'll pin a picture to the top that just says place order here. And you are responsible for, you know, putting your name, your email address, and whatever method that you want to get your product to you and your order there. And so far, that's been how I've handled that, kind of having the out of stock issue, just because if I'm posting my own personal stock, it's not as risky. But if you're trying to post what might be available to order in the back office or what you might trade with someone, it can change so rapidly. You can't just have your colors out in an album for a week like that. And so I've made it very time limited. And especially, you know, weeks like this week, if I had posted on Monday what my inventory was, that doesn't match what actually my inventory is today if my party's today. So that's a way that I've kind of done the Facebook parties a little bit differently. Okay, so those are the highlights. I'm going to show you, I'm going to try to flip my camera around and show you some of the different things I use for setup. I don't have my table in a presentation kind of setup sort of way. I've found with in-home parties, there's not a lot of presentation that happens. People are just trying to dig into your stuff right away, which you do need to be careful about. One of the parties I had, there was a girl, I would say she was maybe about 10. Gosh, I shouldn't say this. I really like kids. I work with kids full time, but she's just one of those kids that's not very likable. And so she was into everything, and God, anyway, she got into my stock, and she actually opened and broke the seal on 2 of my colors. So I had a roseberry and an apple cider that, like, right off the bat were already open. So I think sometimes the more I have things set up in a presentation and spread out, the harder it is for me to kind of police who's getting into what. And I have had you know, people get into colors that I don't actually have available for them, and then the stock to get into. So just kind of think about that when you're setting it up. But here are the items. So let me see if I can get that switched over. So one of the main things that I do is I take a magnet board, and that way I can pin up or take down immediately any colors that are changing as they change, and that they might change in real time. So I tried to kind of put colors, I'm sorry it's shaky, tried to put colors that might actually apply to people right now. So I'll put on here, take me home today. So if you've recently joined and ordered, it's possible that you might have blue, red, fly girl, or cocoa, or maybe you just have blue, red. But I highlight that, that this is something they could leave with today, because in in-person parties, that is very important. But then I also have a section on my board where I'll have things that are on their way. And I might have different columns, and I have different sized boards depending on what the stock might be for me at that time. But I may have a column that's like, we're on our way, we'll be here in 3 days. Or I may have a column that's, you know, we're on our way, we'll be here in 2 weeks. But that way people can just know what's coming down the pike. And then I have usually a display of these additional colors, and they might be on another board or they might be on a table. And this is probably the area where there's a little bit of controversy about how I handle my parties. I'm sorry, I'm so shaky. So these are all my colors that basically people can test at their own risk, and that is usually what I tell them. And some of my parties, I will purposely just have these out if I'm trying to save on stock for maybe a future party. But basically, these are colors that I have testers for, but that I do not currently have any more stock for, and the company does not have any more stock for. So I'm going to flip this back around. And I will let girls try those. What I do is I will keep a stack of index cards, and if they get into the at your own risk pile, then they write down their name, their email, the best way to contact them, and any of the colors in that testing pile that they've just fallen in love with. But they understand they're doing that at their own risk, and if they find a color that they just love, 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 that they can't leave with it, and I can't order it for them, and it might be weeks or months or never that they could get it. And I might leave with a stack of those. But in the end, so far, that has paid off. It's especially paid off for me in combo vendor events where I don't necessarily have a hostess and I'm being my own hostess. I don't want to go through all my inventory if I have a party tomorrow for a legitimate hostess who has invited people over. And so I might just really market my testers. My main goal for that party is for you to fall in love with the product and believe that it works and know that it's not going to come off. And if you can leave knowing a few colors that you like, even if they're not ones I can get for you now, that's just going to be my success for the day. One of the combo vendor parties that I did, I had 20 women fill out index cards wanting Dawn Rising. And that was a color that I had access to when I first joined, and then I sold out of my stock, and the company's not had it until recently. And so when the color came back in stock, I ordered like 18 of them. And I went into my index cards and I messaged all those women. 10 of them immediately ordered that color. And so from the time that they did the tester until now, actually almost 4 weeks have passed, but I still ended up being able to capture sales for that. So I think those are other things to think about outside of the box while we have limited stock. Certainly when there's several colors in, there's no point in even exposing people to that, but there have been a few parties where testers might be all I have, and my goal at that party is just to get you to love the product, to sell you that Lip Sense works, and then to sell you that I should be your girl for that in the future. And if that's all that happens for that party, that's all that happens for that party. So I wanted to just show you something about scheduling, and I'm very visual, so I tried to, let me see if I can flip this around again. I tried to get this kind of in a slide format, just so you can understand where I'm going here. So I just want to show you some numbers. This is a calendar, obviously, for the next few months, and I've got the 9th kind of bolded there because that's when I joined 6 weeks ago. And so here is my 6-week mark. These are the days that I've been an active distributor. And I just want to show you my schedule. These are the 23 events that I have booked in 6 weeks. And the ones in red, those are private spontaneous testings. I had one of those today, actually, before logging in. Those are oftentimes things that I knew nothing about. People just text or post on my page and are like, hey, I really want to try such and such. And I'm like, cool, come to my house. I'm cooking dinner. And they can just come in and help themselves while they're here. The blue ones are like more traditional in-home parties, and those have happened a variety of places. They have been in my home. They have been in a hostess's home. I've had people book them in their church fellowship hall, at the local middle school, in a restaurant, and so you can kind of think out of the box with those. The green ones are vendor combo parties, so I might be piggybacking with someone who's selling LuLaRoe or jewelry or something like that, but it's not like a big vendor event or anything. The black ones, those are launch parties that are scheduled for my downline where I do the party for them. And then there's like a brownish maroon one. Those are all Facebook parties. And then the yellow ones are expo events, so like a bridal expo or a wedding expo. So that's in 6 weeks time of just, and I want you also to think about this. The last 4 that are scheduled are the only 4 that I have personally initiated and sought out. So let that sink in for a second. All of the other ones have happened completely organically, of either someone has sought me out just because they've heard about the product or they love it or they've seen it on my private page. These are not people that I'm tracking down and begging, beating to have parties with me. It definitely can be done in a natural and organic kind of way. Okay, so I just want to focus on these 3 months and just show you some examples of how things have worked out. With this day on the 23rd, this was a private testing and 2 people came. One of those people is Tammy, who I think is still on here, who is awesome. And the immediate results or the immediate gains is that between her and her friend, and I didn't even know Tammy at that time, it was my friend Tanya who texted me and was like, hey, I want to buy some of this stuff. I hear it's awesome, but I want to try it first. And so I'm like, come to my house. And so my kids are running around naked and we're, in the middle of dinner, and actually they were cracking open dinosaurs out of eggs. I don't know. It was crazy. But they just come over to the house and I met Tammy for the first time, and it ended up resulting in $160 in sales, and I had 2 new customers, which was awesome. And I never even had to leave my question. Or sorry, I was reading a question while I'm talking. I should not do that. I never had to leave my kitchen. The delayed gains of that, though, is that a few weeks later, Tammy messaged me out of the blue and wanted to become a distributor, and she did, and then she immediately placed a qualifying order. And so all of that resulted just from letting 2 people stop by my house. Alright, so flash forward to the 25th, I had a Facebook party. This is my first Facebook party. My hostess invited over 100 and some people, but there were only actually 12 people who were active. Those 12 people, though, accumulated $750 in sales, and all 12 ordered. The delayed gains is that 3 of those people booked their own future parties. 10 have already ordered additional product from me. One girl has ordered like 6 colors. And let me say, by the way, she is actually a distributor for Unique, and keeps like secretly purchasing product from me. I've been trying to get her to just be a distributor, but she doesn't want to. But anyway, so I had 3 new parties booked, and then a few weeks later, same kind of process. Someone messaged me, and I'm not openly, this is just a choice of mine, I'm not openly talking about the business opportunity when I do these parties. I'm just focusing on the girls having a good time and trying out testers. But after this, Someone messaged me asking about the opportunity. She joined. She immediately placed a qualifying order. Her launch party is tomorrow. Okay, so let's look at the 27th, a different type of party. This was my first in-home party. She had like over 40 people invited on her page. Only 7 people showed up, but of those 7 people, we did $650 in sales, and I had 7 new customers. I had another party that was booked, and I've had additional customer order from that. And I actually had 3 people from that same party that have attended 3 additional future parties. They've just had such a good time. And then I ended up getting a new distributor from that as well. Someone just randomly a few weeks later messaged, hey, I've been thinking about this. Can you tell me about the business opportunity? And she is actually my top selling distributor. So then on the 4th, I did a vendor combo party, and this was just at my own house. I had a good friend of mine that sells LRO and a friend of mine who makes custom jewelry, and we took all the furniture out of my house, and I have a wet bar. We opened up the wet bar and had champagne and wine, and we each invited women and had them come to our house. And we actually do this about 3 or 4 times a year, but this has been the first time we've done it that I've been selling anything. I usually just reap the hostess benefits. But so we had 3 vendors that were present and about 20 women who showed up. But if you'll notice on my calendar, the very next day I had a real hostess who was having a party for me, and then the very next day I had a launch party scheduled. So I purposely on this day, even with that many people coming through my house, I hit a lot of my inventory. And I only did $250 in sales. I only allowed myself to sell blue, red, and persimmon. That was it. And everything else, I let them test, you know, the 20-some colors that I had, and I had them fill out all those index cards. And even with that, I ended up with a new wholesale distributor that signed on that day. I had 4 new customers, and I had 20 people who were exposed to the product. And then the delayed gains from that is that, you know, 10 of those people that I called later when Dawn Rising was back in stock, they all ordered it. And then I actually had 2 new parties booked and a new vendor event booked. And it's a super cool vendor event. It's at the end of April, and it's in a bar, and they have a private room. They have a full cash bar, a private room that will hold 40 people. And there's a guy who teaches painting lessons, and he's doing a canvas of lips. And a person that was at this party actually recommended me to him, and he sought me out and asked if I would do a combo party with him. And so that was, you know, never anything on my radar that I was looking for, but it was a result of doing this event. So if you only look at my first 10 days, these days that are in purple here, my first 10 days of actually having product in my hand. I joined on February 9th. My order shipped to my house on February 22nd. If you look at my first 10 days of having product in my hand, from the 4 different types of interactions that I did over a 10-day period, just from that alone, all the other colored boxes are parties that generated from that I didn't have to do anything for, plus 4 of my 10 first line people resulted directly from my first 10 days of parties. And so they trickled down at different times. And if you actually look at all my parties and how they came together, the majority of my first line were results of people exposed to that, plus 3 of my 5 second line girls were exposed through parties as well. So here again is just kind of an overall look of, you know, what my schedule is like or has been like. That's kind of the main spill, you know, that I have. I see I do have a question here from Jessica. I'll see if it'll let me open it. Yes. So, okay, so her question is about, she likes the idea of letting people do the testers, but she's been given advice to be careful about pre-selling it. Yeah, so it's risky. I don't pre-sell any product that I have not already received shipping confirmation that it's coming to me, because of the back order issues and being concerned about that. So when I do the index cards, I don't take anybody's money at that point. I will just say, especially, I really use it a lot if I see that someone's interested in the product but they're struggling finding a color for them, and I might have an idea of like, oh, you know, really Bombshell would look good on her, or I need to bring out the Dawn Rising, or I need to bring out whatever. That's when sometimes I'll say, okay, I think I have some colors that you'll like, but I just need to warn you, you're going to have to test them at your own risk. I can't get them for you right now. And as long as people are okay with that and they can get sold on the product and sold on that color, I don't take any of their money that day, and I just hold on to that index card until it comes in. I think pre-selling for things that you've ordered will become possible again, you know, as the stock issue gets addressed and it gets deeper. But you know, right now I think it can be a little risky. So yeah, just handle that whatever way you feel comfortable, or depending on who it is. Now I've kind of pre-sold to some of my best girlfriends who I know are going to be okay if I then have to tell them that it's been back ordered. And luckily every Napa that I sold that was back ordered was to someone like in my inner circle that was okay with that, but it's not always going to work out that way. So those are kind of the main things. If there are any other questions, I can take those. If not, you know, people can kind of comment them as they watch the video and think about it. I'll make sure there's nothing else. Oh, I did have one more thing I was going to show. Just kind of with my tester setup of things that I do take. Obviously, you want to make sure you have a method of payment. I take a bunch of mirrors. And then I just take product, and I kind of keep them separate for myself of what I know, you know, is my at your own risk area versus what's my own. And then I make sure and keep all my stock very separate from that, and keep my testers and my pictures and things kind of close to me, because girls just want to go through it and it gets mixed up, and you know, it can kind of be a mess. But I think that's it. I think all my notes that I have everywhere I've covered. So if you think of something in the future, just comment, and hopefully this is helpful to some people. And thank you, Bree, for having me. So have a good night.